Surprise.
Good evening. Welcome to Grand Blanc Township Board Meeting for Tuesday, July 23rd. If we could all rise for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, Clerk Robertson, if you'd call the roll.
I would be happy to, Mr. Supervisor. Trustee Hugo.
Here.
Trustee Fike is absent. Trustee Raridan.
Here.
Trustee White.
Here.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Here.
Myself here. Supervisor Bennett.
Here.
6 members present, a quorum.
Thank you. And now I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda. Motion by Dr. Raridan, supported by Ms. Hugo.
Motion by Raridan, supported by Hugo for the agenda. Trustee Raridan.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you. And now we will open the floor for public comment, and we have a comment from Mr. Mike Yancho. Good evening, Mr. Yancho.
Good evening, Board. I just wanted to draw attention to a great event that happened this past weekend. I haven't seen a report on how it turned out, but I want to thank Matt and his team from the Parks and Rec Department for helping put on a great fill-the-field event for Fish of Grand Blanc. And there was a ton of food and toiletries and things donated, and the first ever event like that. And I think if we can grow on that, it'll highly benefit our community. Barb Smith does a great job of running that program, and I just wanted to highlight that. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the kind remarks, and I'm sure Mr. Kimmer and his staff appreciate hearing those as well. But it was a very good event, and it seems like we're having lots of firsts in the past year or two here and looking to grow all these things into something even bigger. So thank you, Mr. Yancho. Seeing no further public comment, we will move it back to the board here, and I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda, if we so choose. So motion by Ms. Hugo, supported by Treasurer Kilmer.
Motion by Hugo, supported by Kilmer for the consent agenda. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Raridan.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Okay, at this time, we will move to old business, and we have on the agenda strategic plan July review. Mr. Limata?
Sure. In your board packet, we had the 2024 review of strategic plan accomplishments. Executive Coordinator Melissa Roberts put together for this evening. Added a few to the last time we did this review. You can look through it, and if the board wants to comment on any of these, again, I think that it shows the accomplishments, and then the original plan was in there as well if you want to go back and see where that was. But when you just look through some of it, community connectedness and identity, again, the logo, the social media presence, signs added, the improving the parks and recreation facilities. As you guys know, we spent a lot of time talking about that, identifying that 5-year master plan for parks, working on the non-motorized trails, several ADA accessible improvements throughout the park, the installation of the fit court, the upgrade of the ball fields, the new South Pavilion playground, the funding moving forward for the Embry-Cook non-motorized pathway. We are still waiting on the appropriation, but it has been awarded through Genesee County Parks for Congressman Kildee's office, got us additional appropriation funds to improve the parking out there. New equipment, the truck, the field draggers, the Kubotas, the new Parks and Recreation software is launching in 2024. Reconstruction of the pavilion that disappeared and the roof replacements because of the February tornado. Those have been accomplished, or the pavilion will be going up very soon. The playground is out, looks fantastic. Under community vitality, enhanced code enforcement. We had the update from Director Smith recently, and we're able to walk through those. The Tech Village and DDA growth, just to comment on that, I know that Supervisor Bennett had a meeting with one of the principals of Swaza LLC, that's driving force behind Tech Village. We're still proceeding. The preliminary engineering for the road, sewer, and water are all kind of wrapping up here in the next couple of months. And then that will start going out into the next phase. So we're still moving forward with Tech Village. Thanks to DDA and the board for approving the road upgrades on Baldwin Road. We've already started having the conversation for the next phase of Baldwin, which would run from Ruby Street to Saginaw. And we talked about that briefly, and talked about it would include, through that economic development federal funding, that we can include a roundabout in front of Woodfield and the entrance to Tech Village on Saginaw in that project. So that is ongoing and exciting. Pension and OPEB funding, the board made a priority and a goal. Again, 96% funded on OPEB. When this board took office, you were 56.6% funded. So give yourselves a pat on the back, because your focus and continued drive to do that shows what you can accomplish when you come together. This board, for the defined benefit pension plan, you were 68% funded when the board took office. You're now 73% funded for your police pension, continuing to make progress. The Point North Business District continued work on the additional lighting and alleyway abandonment. We purchased the blighted property on Dort Highway and cleaned that up, where there used to be the tree place, and created that business association that's still moving forward today. Business licensing will be coming online with the BSNA online upgrade, so that will kick off. Actually, we're starting to that transition into the BSNA online as we speak. We'll have them in training folks for the next 2 weeks, starting on Monday. So once that's up and integrated, we can start with our business licensing, which we're excited about. The beautification efforts continue with the installation of the flower pots, the flower areas that have been planted, and then the highly successful community cleanup that the board participated in, again this year and in the spring, and cleaned up an ungodly amount. I forget the tonnage now, but the amount of trash from all the volunteers and the board members who cleaned that up. So that beautification, you guys have a lot to be proud of.
Close to 2 tons.
Yeah.
Dennis, just moving back to the Point North Business District, one of the things that is happening, and I'm not sure how to document it on here, but we actually have had several of the businesses that were vacant just in the past year that have actually become either occupied or in the path of being occupied. So for one, former Thomas Appliance building is now occupied by Blue Flame, which, was vacant prior to that. Actually, the building directly across the street from us here actually was vacant. It was, a while back, it was Mid-Michigan Painting. It actually now, Timbercrest Construction and Roofing actually bought it and closed on it in the last week. They'll be moving in there. The gray building down here that's been vacant for several years, I don't know if anybody's seen the construction going on there, but they're actually dividing it into 2 different spaces. The property across the street from that actually also sold. It has the big lot and has the garage and the small building that sold in the past year. I did speak with the business owner on the corner of Maple Road and Saginaw Street, the A-frame building that's vacant. And he finally has all his ducks in a row with regard to environmental work that he was waiting to get back the reports. He's received a clean environmental on that property, and he is going to put it up for sale. And so I talked about that and maybe some people that were interested in it. So there is movement along here in terms of the property and getting rid of some of these vacant buildings and getting them occupied.
Oh, good point. Under your goal of infrastructure, the IT upgrades, we've replaced that township office firewall, fire station number 2 firewall, segmented the networks, so we've got, we don't have as much issue if something goes down. We can actually keep moving. It's very important when you have a police department with a 24/7 dispatch. We migrated the email to Office 365, replaced all the township campus network switches, which were outdated, implemented a redundant domain controller, replaced the BSNA servers, replaced over 40 desktop and laptop workstations, established the IT hardware standards and purchasing policy, implemented the highly available firewalls, community engagement software for police department to gather feedback and provide resources to residents. With the CrowdStrike issue that everybody went through nationwide, really worldwide last week, I just want to give a shout out to our IT department, especially Nathan Lucevelt. He was here at 2 o'clock in the morning and worked straight through while a lot of people were down for multiple days. Some are still experiencing it, if you've seen the thing with the airlines. If it wasn't for Nate being able to come in here, Nate really got us back up and running, went to every individual workstation, and literally was here. He got, it was 2 hours of sleep. He got the notice that things were going on. He immediately came to the office and worked straight through until he got us all completely back up and running. It's amazing. We are so incredibly lucky as a township to have a guy like Director Lucevelt working for us.
And I recall, when we were doing the strategic plan, putting it together, our board, one of our big concerns was with the whole IT situation and wondering if we were secure, because a lot of the equipment was outdated. And so, looking at the list of accomplishments, we weren't sure how quickly we'd be able to move through, because the list of basically our needs assessment for technology was looked pretty insurmountable, but it looks like we've accomplished, much more than I ever expected that we would.
Oh, without a doubt. We've made huge strides. The DPW facility and fire station still moving forward. Those timeline is getting updated as we speak. The bid documents have been really just being finalized at this point. We expect to go out to bid next week. So we should start hearing that in about a month. We'll be able to start having a conversation about where those bids came in and what our expectations are. That we also have a Teams meeting scheduled for tomorrow at 2 o'clock to talk with municipal financial advisors and bond counsel about bonding for the facilities, and we'll be able to provide you an update on that as well. But we'll be moving those things, hand in hand as we move forward. Fire station number 2, completely updated and upgraded. So important because, as you guys know, fire service carries with it higher risk of cancer, making sure that we have the ability for their turnout gear when they come back, that they can go in, get it into an extractor, that all that stuff stays clean. It stays clean from the other office or living spaces. That was a huge project that the board was able to accomplish. That was completed last year, and actually really completed this year as we did the generator out there for the upgrade. The township campus plan, we continue to look through and work on. As you know, it's been a challenge with the township campus plan as our focus remains on this building. But at some point, once we know for sure that we're moving forward and everything's good, we really, hopefully this board, because you guys have been so progressive with all of this and having a great long-term vision, is are we staying in this building long-term? Are we going to build one like was always planned to accomplish? And again, I wouldn't recommend that we jump into that until we have the funding to do so. That means, the bond for the police department will be paid off in 2031. So it's quicker than you think. And, as you look at how long it took us to get through these buildings in the process, it means in 2029, really the board will really be moving those plans along if that's where we're going, or if it's going to be to remain in this building, or if there's another reuse of this building, if you'd rather look at something like a community center. There's a lot of questions that I think you guys can tackle in your next strategic plan. That's kind of a quick recap of just the accomplishments that, you guys put a strategic plan together and said, this is what we're going to accomplish in our 4-year term. And this was really finalized halfway through 2021. So it's what you've accomplished in the last 3 years is nothing short of amazing. Putting a plan together, making sure that staff stayed on it, and providing the incentive and the budget behind it so that we could accomplish these things. I'd say, obviously the number one, there's a lot of accomplishments we talked about, but number one for me was getting rid of those legacy costs, ensuring our financial future long-term, and making sure that we can continue to provide services regardless of what the economy does, because we know it's going to come up and down. We've put ourselves in a position that we can weather the next downturn in the economy.
Any questions for Mr. Molina? Okay. One of the things that I know we have slated is the lighting along the Point North Business District and also along Dort, and they are making progress. I don't know if anybody's seen that they mowed a section along Dort Highway on the east side of the road. You notice that it's they went back a little bit further into their right-of-way, cutting some trees, what have you. They needed the space to be able to, they're going to be boring wire underneath there because there's really no existing light poles. So they'll be putting in light poles and boring electrical lines down that east side of Dort.
Are we gonna discuss this packet?
Yeah.
I mean,
With the Kearsley Creek or?
yeah,
Yes, we are.
okay.
That's coming up. But anything on the strategic plan that anybody wants to mention or add? I think, the list of accomplishments is phenomenal, and I credit the board for putting together the strategic plan to begin with, so that we had something. I remember our discussions early on were that, we wanted to be able, in 4 years, to be able to say more than just that we approve purchasing of police vehicles and trucks, but that we actually, move the ball forward on a number of items. And I think looking at the list, we clearly have done that, so.
I think it's a report card. You guys want to show the taxpayers your report card for what you've accomplished as a board? This is a pretty amazing report card. And this list of accomplishments, again, in the 3 years that you worked on this and the list of accomplishments, I think you could stack it up against any prior board in Grambling Township history. Nothing short of miraculous. What you've done is just hats off from a staff standpoint. It's just having the focus of putting a good, solid strategic plan together, and the finances, making sure, I don't know that everybody gets that watches the meetings or hears about it, but you guys have put us in such good stead financially that, like I said earlier, we can weather the next economic downturn. People won't see or feel the loss of services. We've put ourselves in such a good position, and we've really kind of guaranteed that long-term financial health for Grambling Township.
Absolutely. Well, thank you to you and your staff for helping us to move that ball forward and to accomplish these things, Dennis. Okay, so moving on.
Item 7A, Mr.
Yes,
Supervisor.
thank you. Under new business, the board will consider a motion to approve the purchase of Clemis record management system for $45,199 and allow the township superintendent to authorize and execute all related contracts. Good evening, Chief. I know you've been working hard on this for quite a while.
Good evening. Yes, this has been a work in project process, a long process for this project, actually. So we've been on our current RMS system for about the past 6 years. So, and within this RMS system, this is where our police officers end up doing their police reports. The sergeants approve it, and it gets assigned to the detective bureau for investigation. It's also a product of where we end up doing our property and evidence at to get the property room cleared out. However, since we ended up switching over to this RMS system about 6 years ago, it's been really cumbersome. Officers are now losing some of their police reports when they're typing it on their MDC, which is their mobile data computer. out there in a patrol vehicle. And if they were to search a person, say they want to search the driver that's currently in front of them on a traffic stop to solve, detect, or prevent crime, this system is actually taking about 2 minutes for any data to pull up, which causes a huge inefficiency on our end because the Supreme Court says, you know what, there's only a certain time that you could actually hold somebody on a traffic stop. So what we want to do is we want to switch over to the Clemis product. So this Clemis product has been in existence for over 30 years. A matter of fact, almost every single agency within Oakland County is on this product. They speak very highly of it. Also, there is Lapeer County. All those agencies are on it. St. Clair County, Tuscola County, and then there's a couple within Macomb County. So we're going to get a lot of information sharing switching over to Clemis. It's going to be faster. Like I said, just hear a lot of good things about it. One additional feature on the Clemis product is this also has ticket software built right into it. So we were actually going to explore switching over our ticket software, which we had in the capital projects this year. So we won't have to do that. We're going to take some of that funding to specifically fund the Clemis project right now. Another aspect is crime mapping. So we pay crime mapping, which is a separate product, and also iTech crash reports is a separate product. This is all rolled into one. So it's pretty much a one-stop shop for us. So 4 products going right into one.
So it sounds like we're combining several things into one in terms of software and.
Yes, sir. One sign-in, and it's going to do everything right there. Yep.
Clerk Robertson?
Yeah, a number of years ago, I remember in my previous life, there was a discussion among law enforcement about the system that you all use to have data to track things. Because I remember Sheriff Bouchard speaking on this. I remember a meeting we had at the state police post, easily 15 years ago. And that, is this Clemis system the system that is part of that?
That is exactly what Sheriff Bouchard would be speaking about, because the Clemis product was originated and actually owned by Oakland County. So he was trying to get that to take off to do a statewide system. I don't know where they're at with that statewide system. To get every single agency to start participating is, and all on the same page is quite the task.
I just remember there being discussion about which software was best between, frankly, what Bouchard was advocating for in the state police, maybe local departments. And at the time, I remember my position was, figure it out, guys, and let me know what you want, and then I'll appropriate the money or vote for the bill in the legislature. But I just was curious, are we integrated statewide with these systems? I mean, from an informational standpoint about the bad guys?
No. So we are not all integrated. So that is the problem. So when we reached out to Clemis, we thought that would probably be the best for our community right here if we're going to deviate from Premier One. In full transparency, there are many agencies within Genesee County who are on Premier One at this time. However, every single chief is very frustrated. It takes somebody to get the ball rolling, so I said, you know what, if we have to do it, we'll be that driver. So they are very eager to see if this does end up passing here today, the product in action, and there are several chiefs that are very willing to make the switch as well.
And from what I have heard, the product we're using is very inferior
Yes.
to what this will do. And
Yes. So it takes a lot of time for the officers, not only in the field, but it takes a lot of time for our supervision as well to approve the report, because then that ties them up at the office as well.
and then when they work for half an hour on a report and lose it, very frustrating.
Very, very frustrating for them, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
You're welcome. Yeah. Dr.
Make a
Reardon.
motion, we approve this, and 15 years ago, we wanted to go to this same system. So I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay. Support by Ms. Hugo.
Motion by Raridan, supported by Hugo on item 7A. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Raridan.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item B, under new business, the board will consider a motion to approve Resolution 24-27, which allows the Bikes on the Bricks police escorted ride to operate through designated areas of the township on September 7th, 2024.
So you guys have seen this before in prior years, Bikes on the Brick as an organization. You guys have to approve the resolution as a local government unit for them to be able to have the police escort that will come through. But just again, it's our Back to the Bricks. This is Bikes on the Bricks. And the whole thing is kind of a fun event. There's a police skills competition for motorcycle officers. There's food, all those things. The proceeds all go to support charitable organizations in Genesee County.
I've been talking to a few residents, they didn't even realize we had police motorcycles until they drove through the construction area on Grand Blanc Road. And they've noticed them because we've been patrolling the people going a little bit too fast through that construction area. And the motorcycle police are able to handle that area a little bit better than police cars, I believe. So they've been a little bit more visible this summer, from what I'm hearing from residents. So they're being used. So any thoughts on the Bike to the Bricks? Anybody?
Is the motion in order, Mr. Supervisor? Then I will make that
Well,
motion.
Mr. White actually beat you to it. But,
Okay.
But you can second.
How about support?
Okay.
Seconding. Okay. Support, motion by White, supported by Robertson. Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Okay. Just a future agenda item, reminder that our next board meeting is going to be moved to Wednesday, August 7th, due to the election going on here in this room. Meeting will be held in the auditorium, so it will be held here. Just
Day after.
keep in mind that, we have early voting and all that going on in this room here. So, did you have something to add to that, Don?
Yeah, so in front of you guys, there's a packet from Genesee County Drain Commissioner, and I put together the packet, again, I'm calling it a future agenda item. We're going to ask John O'Brien from the Drain Commissioner's office to attend our meeting on August 7th, so we can have a little bit more in-depth discussion. I wanted to give you guys ample time to take a look at this and have the conversation. All of the bid documents have been included, so you can see how the bids came out on the various phases of the Kearsley Creek Interceptor Sewer Project. We discussed it briefly at the prior meeting. As you know, the cost came in considerably higher. In this one where you see the letter from John O'Brien to me, if you go to the Exhibit B on the back of those pages, I've highlighted where Grand Blanc Township, we need 6,121 units of the capacity of the 8,221 units capacity for the county. And our prior estimated cost from the engineer was $11,979,582. Now, the bids have been received, and the revised cost is $17,814,906 for the same number of equivalency units that we need the capacity for. They do note that they received an additional $1 million in ARPA funds to help offset some of the costs, but it's a considerable increase. And so I did request and receive all of the bid documents, so you'll see A, B, C, D, 4 different phases, and the bids that came in. And you'll see that there were quite a variety, I mean, a pretty big swing in some of the phases of the bids. The breakdown is included so that the board can actually go back in and take a look and see where, how it was being bid and where the recommendation is being made to who to award the bid to. We can go into a much more in-depth conversation when we get to the August 7th meeting and have the representative from the Drain Commission here. One of the notes, and I think it was in that cover page, is that for Phase 2, which is primarily serves us on Baldwin Road and then down from Baldwin Road to Saginaw through Woodfield, allows us to abandon the Woodfield pump station, which is good. But that project actually came in at just like $2.4 million, pretty much right where we expected it to come in. So it's kind of interesting that our phase, that's really the phase 2 of Cruiser Creek Interceptor, our portion that's 100% paid by us, only really serves the township, came in at bid. But I know that with the other ones and when we had the meeting over at the Drain Commissioner's office to review all this, they speak about, increased labor costs, increased material costs, supply chain issues, increased depth of the gravity sewer, a large quantity of work that contractors have so much work right now with the funding available that we're not getting as good of prices on bids as we would have expected. But I think one of the things is also where they had originally engineered this to go through, there's a portion that is in a conservation easement. In order for them to build Woodfield out and build some of the lots that they did back in the day, they put a big portion of this, like a wetlands conservation easement, and it was designed initially to go through there, but Eagle will not allow the project to go through that conservation easement. So because of that, it had to be rerouted. By rerouting it, they've had to re-engineer to where a lot of this is being tunneled so that it doesn't disrupt the homes and the golf course and the Woodfield, which added also to the cost. And it's one of those from where the original estimate was going to be in 2021. Now, to put it in perspective, when we were looking at doing an upgrade to District 6 and 11, which was our alternative to participating in the KCI project, it doesn't have as much impact for the township, but it would serve our purposes to increase our capacity. Excuse me. But that was estimated back in 2021 at current engineer's estimate of about $21 million. So all in with phase 2 and everything, we're going to be about $21 million with this current estimate. And our alternative going upgrades to District 6 and 11 in 2021 prices was at about $21 million. So it's kind of pointing us in the direction that KCI still probably saves the township funds to move forward with it. But the caveat here is everybody needs to move forward if this is going to go forward. Obviously, we're the biggest customer here, but if Atlas Township, Davison Township, Village of Goodrich, Oakland County, if anybody pulls out, then I don't know if the Drain Commission moves the project forward.
So really, just that last part, summarize, our engineer estimate for doing the project on our own came in at about 21 million. And so by going with KCI, we thought we might be able to save some money, which, the early engineer estimate did show us saving money. But with the price increases, going with KCI will actually cost us about the same as what it was going to cost going on our own. Number two, the project isn't a want, it's a need. I think from everything I've heard anyways, that this isn't going to just benefit the south part of the township. It's not going to just benefit Oakland County. It's going to benefit even up in the northwest corner of our township where we have basements that flood every time there's a rain event of any significance, because we're at capacity with sewers up there because everything from the south flows up through the north, up through that area in the northwest. And so when you get rain events and the rain gets into the sanitary sewer, they end up with sewer backups in their basement. So it's a needed program, needed sewer line that's actually going to help more than just the south part of the township. It'll help the entire township. The other thing that Dennis and I were talking about is that in addition to the environmentally sensitive areas they're trying to go around by tunneling, one of the reasons why it's important for Oakland County to participate in this, they have, many lakes just in their county that currently are being, compromised by all the septic tanks that are flowing into, the water supply there, lakes and what have you. And we're going to be downstream from that with the Kearsley Creek, so all that effluent ends up coming into our county and into Grand Blanc Township. So it's also to protect us in the long term as well. Am I correct in those statements, Mr. Lehman?
You are, and that's one of the things that the Drain Commissioner's office will talk to you about is it's not, bringing in Oakland County does help offset some of the costs, obviously, and their share went up $6 million. They were in at $10 million, and their new estimate is at $16 million. But it's not completely altruistic. It offsets costs, but it also addresses the environmental concerns that Genesee County faces because you've heard the saying, it rolls downhill. Well, all of the environmental concerns that they have going into those lakes in Oakland County eventually end up in Genesee County through the creeks and streams. And so that was one of the concerns to bring them on board.
Clerk Robertson?
Yeah, this question is half rhetorical because I think I know the answer, but I want to make the point in what I'm asking is the route or the engineering of the KCI project was altered because Eagle didn't allow the original route because of environmentally sensitive areas. I know this might be an improper, not quite accurate use of the term, but is that a takings of some kind? And can we go back at Eagle for monies since they're significantly increasing the cost of this project through their edicts?
I think it's more in the fact that there was a portion of the property that was set aside as a nature conservancy in order to move the Woodfield development along. And so there's a big portion of it in Oakland County, including that was set aside because I know Holly Township looked at a big portion of the property like, wow, maybe we could get development into that property. And but it's set aside as a natural area, nature conservancy. So you're never going to be able to build on that property, and they wouldn't let us even cut through, put the sewer line through.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
All right. Any thoughts, or anybody want to wait till we have John O'Brien here, or?
It seems like every time we deal with the county, the costs go up. I mean, this seems to be an enormous increase. I mean, I would almost want to do this ourselves if we could, personally.
Well, we've seen construction costs going up with just our fire department, our DPS. The cost of pipe, even from what I'm hearing, even at the road commission meetings, what have you. But even delay in projects. I learned today that actually even some of these road projects that there's quotas on the concrete that they can get for the road, that they can only draw so much per week in terms of concrete because they're trying to cover lots of different bases. But all those things factor into greater costs for these projects because the longer it takes, the more it costs, right?
What I would suggest, Dr. Raridan, is we'll ask Scott Hemmeyer from Rowe Engineering to be here for the August 7th meeting as well, and see if he couldn't provide some context around looking back at what we had originally proposed through the upgrades for District 6 and 11 for our sewer project, what that might look like from their perspective if we were to go back and take a look at moving in that direction. So I think you might find that they can't give us a firm price, but it might be interesting to see what their recommendation would be to the board on whether that should even be a possibility, or should we be looking at that? And one of the challenges that we had with that project was we come up Vassar Road and where Carriage Hill, there's that lake back behind those properties. We have to route it back behind through there. And to keep the gravity feed, there's areas that will be about 50 foot deep back there. So it's a very challenging project. And that's what was really driving the cost up when we were looking at that. And that's why we switched to starting talking about Kearsley Creek Interceptor, going way back to like 2017, 2018. Like maybe what are our alternatives here? And even then, I mean, when we were first started to look at KCI and talk to them, initially it looked like, doing our project was, there might not have been as much benefit for the county and even for us because of we're not taking any capacity out of the northwest corner of the township. But the cost savings, I was pushing like, hey, I think we're going to do our District 6 and 11 versus go to KCI. And then as those costs began to balance out through the engineering challenges, then my focus started to shift, saying, well, Kearsley Creek Interceptor makes more sense. It's got more advantages for us, more benefit for the county as well, more benefit for Grand Blanc Township, and we're kind of solving a lot of regional issues because we already had some of those municipalities reaching out to us to ask for additional capacity, and we didn't have the capacity to give them even to meet their needs. So it's a real challenge, but I think we have to trust our engineers to come in and say, should we? I mean, does it make sense for us to take another look at that? I know a lot with the county, and we talked about this last time, is like, well, if we don't have an answer by August 17th from everybody, we could lose out on SRF funding, and it's 2%, whatever. We can verify that when we have John O'Brien standing at the podium to answer that question for the board. But it depends. I mean, is it going to save us? It saves us $5 million. Well, then we go back to District 6 and 11, and it makes more sense. Or do they have a firm commitment from the other municipalities? Is Davison out? Is Atlas out? Is Oakland County out? Because if they are, then Grand Lake Township can't pick up the additional capacity to sell at some future date. That puts it on the county. And they did increase theirs about $2.5 million. I think they said that they would pick up. I'd have to look back on what they're, actually, in their initial, they were going to, first they were like, it's all funded by us. Then they had picked up $7 million. Now they say they'll pick up to $9.5 million and own the capacity and sell it at a later date as we go through and break it out. But it's a matter of verifying all those numbers as well. I don't want to buy a bunch of capacity that we don't need at this point. We first looked at it. I said, well, I'll pick up additional capacity in order to move this project through, because then we can sell it at the then current price to somebody if we don't need the capacity. But at this point, now that it got up to, we're pushing on $20 million to be all in, then I'm not interested in purchasing additional capacity at this point. It's got to be picked up by those who need it now.
All right.
Forward to Mr. O'Brien's visit.
The engineer's estimate isn't necessarily going to be what the final cost is, too, right? I mean, they've been off substantially. I mean, we don't have guarantees that they're going to run into unexpected issues, as seems to be every time, and that it ends up being it might be a couple $1 million more beyond.
Well, these are the actual bids that came
are the
in, and
bids.
if they award it, so.
They're on the hook for whatever, even
Yep.
if it ends up.
Yeah.
Because I know we've had this in where we required, we kind of had to pick up on the back end because it was.
Change orders came
Yes.
through and they ran into a challenge. So these are the actual bids, and that's why I included it in your packet, so you can take a look at the different phases. I mean, some of these bids are wild when you look at the swing between them. On that first phase, the lowest bid at 14.5 and the highest bid at 56.5 million.
Wow.
And then there's a range of them in between. So that just always, then other ones are close, 3.479 to 3.533. I mean, in the different phases. So that's really interesting to me, too. And I think, I would always be scared by a really low bid when I see one that if it's is more scary to me than somebody who's way high. They just made a mistake or they just don't want to do the job.
Especially if we don't know their track record.
Yeah, but the really low bids are always a concern to me because did they truly are they just bidding to get the job and then you run into nonstop change orders?
Right.
But you guys have a chance to go through it and get your questions together before they show up. And I think then you'll be asked to make a decision that night on whether we're moving it forward or not.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lemino. Dr. Reardon, anything? No. Ms. Hugo?
No, I won't be here on the 7th of August. I'm going out of town,
Okay.
so sorry.
All right. Thank you for letting us know.
Yep.
Mr. Kilmer, anything this evening from the Treasurer's Department?
No, I've got a lot of questions here, but
On the previous issue, on the
Yeah.
issue with KCI? Okay.
Nothing from me, Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. White? Just a couple of things that had a presentation today regarding the Thompson Road interchange at 23. Since a lot of our people use that route, right, for getting onto 23 Expressway. I don't know if all of you are aware, but the state gave them a $10 million grant to study that and to construct something. They looked at the capacity of that bridge, and it's totally under capacity for what amount of traffic that they have there. But in terms of any kind of issues with the structure itself, there aren't any. I mean, it's solid. It's, those things were built for 75 years of use, and it's probably on about year 65 or 60. But what the engineers are looking at is putting roundabout on each side of it as opposed to widening. I inquired as to what the cost would be if they were to widen it, because we have action overpass on Baldwin Road that goes over 75 that our DDA has always talked about trying to get widened. They estimate to widen that Thompson Road overpass, if they were to do it, would cost about $20 million. So it really is a big swing there. So what they're looking at is putting a roundabout on each side and changing up how people approach that, because right now people get hung up trying to turn off the exit, trying to get onto the exit, what have you. So it should help it quite a bit. The other thing I learned was that there isn't room really for any kind of pedestrian traffic or non-motorized pathway over that overpass. Instead, what they're looking at is putting a cantilevered type of walkway alongside of it. They aren't sure that the structure will support a cantilever, basically attaching a separate bridge, right, to the existing bridge is what that would mean. So they're exploring that. The cost of doing that's about $1.5 million. To build a separate bridge for pedestrian traffic would cost in excess of $2 million. So the other problem they have is trying to cross those roundabouts with some type of pathway. So you can imagine on our Dort Highway pathway, or Dort Highway roundabouts at Cook Road and down by, going over the overpass, if we had walkways near those, I'm not sure I would want to cross those with the speed of the traffic coming on and off the expressway there. So they're exploring all those options with that exit. I asked about, will there ever be an exit on Baldwin Road onto 23? And they're going to have Rowe Engineering come in, who did a study on that whole corridor and is making some recommendations to the state. And they said they'll let them tell us, what their thoughts are, because I know the hospital has always wanted to have an exit off of Baldwin Road, and it certainly wouldn't hurt us to have one off Baldwin Road at all. One of the things, the lighting, they are getting going on that. They've been waiting, like we said earlier, on labor and supplies for that. The milling operations on Baldwin Road, we were notified the other day that they were actually going to be doing that between Saginaw Street and going out to Atlas Township. And then Cook Road, I know we had set a couple of dates that the road commission was going to start on that, and they said Monday. They didn't have the trucks out there. We got calls, hey, how come they haven't started on Monday? But a lot of these projects are weather dependent. They're dependent on crews finishing up on another job and then moving over here. So sometimes they said they're going to start giving a range rather than a specific date when they are going to start. But They have put the orange barrels out on Cook Road, and I know everybody's looking forward to having that done. Again, one of the sad notes with the current state of, shopping online, and I don't know all what goes into the prescription business, but we see the Rite Aids closing all around us. Hopefully there'll be a good use for those. Our board put in place the moratorium on gas stations, so at least we can look at that whole situation if any of the rules would apply, that we want further distances from neighborhoods or other existing gas stations before those all, potentially converted, which we don't necessarily want. At least I don't want that. Great news too, we've got our own local hero here that actually is going on to the Olympics in less than 2 weeks, Grant Fisher, who's going to be running in the 10,000 meter and the 5,000 meter prelim, and hopefully into the 5,000 meter finals coming up. I put the dates online of when those are. We'll try and narrow down the exact times, but very exciting to have somebody from here in Grand Blanc actually going to be competing in several races there. So our best wishes are with him and his family. I know there's a number of people actually here from Grand Blanc that are going over to Paris to watch, because I've run into a few of them here at the Township office headed that way. So exciting stuff. So, Mr. Laddie, anything?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Lemata?
Quick update, we continue to have good negotiations with our IAFF full-time firefighters. We're still working through that process, had a long day of negotiations yesterday. Got plenty of time, their contract doesn't expire till September 30th. We are making progress. Sometimes these just go slower than you want, but we're making progress. We have really fantastic firefighters working for us. We'll get it done, and we'll all be happily moving forward. It's a process, but happy to report to the board that we are making progress.
Good.
Chief, real quick, National Night Out, what's the date and what's the scoop, real quick? I know it's coming up pretty quick, right?
Yeah. National Night Out, Tuesday, August 6th, right here at the Grand Blanc Township Police Department. Times are 5 p.m. to 8 p.m.
So we'll
August
have all the
6th.
usual stuff, the bounce houses.
Yep, bounce houses, food, K-9 demonstrations, the fire departments will both be there. They'll be doing the Jaws of Life demonstration. We'll have a DJ, all that good stuff. So same as usual, and a great time. And last year we thought that maybe there was 1,200 people out there, and this year we think that there will be the same, if not more.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good. And it's going to be great weather.
Yes.
Let's hope.
Okay. All right. Yes, Ms. Hugo's making the motion, or do you have a question?
I was going to ask a question.
Sure.
Do you need volunteers or anything for that?
Last I knew, no. However, I'll get with Lieutenant Schwartz, who's putting it on, and ask if he needs anybody.
I'm available.
All right, I'll reach out to you. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I will make a motion.
Sarah's making a motion to
Motion.
adjourn. Mr. White supports.
Mr. White supports, adjourned at
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. 6:54 PM.